Hello and welcome to this very special broadcast that we get to you from southern Israel. Gaurav Sawant and I are at the kibbutz Be'eri, one of the frontline kibbutzes, Gaurav, where many hostages were taken and over 100 people were actually killed. What you see around Gaurav and me here is utter destruction in this particular commune. As we arrive here on day 16, it's also a day when there's been an enormous escalation on all fronts, Gaurav.
So what you hear are a lot of artillery shells that are going off. Attack helicopters are being used even as we speak, and this kind of shows that Israel, you hear this artillery and this going off at amazing frequency here. So you have air-to-ground rockets that are being fired, F-16 fighter jets, 155mm howitzers, and Apache helicopters that are pounding Hamas bases, and that shows that targets are being softened, perhaps for an imminent ground offensive into the Gaza Strip.
Israel mounts limited Gaza ground raids. Israel tanks roll into Gaza. Hundreds of hostages held by Hamas. India Today reports from the war zone.
It's only set to escalate.
It's only set to escalate.
Full-blown ground invasion next. Our top focus on India first.
The situation on ground sees a major escalation as far as the Israeli Defense Forces are concerned. Apart from their fighter jets and artillery, now Apache helicopter gunships have also been pressed into service to pulverize Hamas strongholds as far as Israel is concerned.
And the very interesting thing that Gaurav and I noticed when we reached there, or within visible distance of Gaza, is that unlike the F-16s that have been pounding Gaza all this while, they fly at a great height, Gaurav. But the use of helicopter gunships means there appears to be a confidence level within the Israeli Defense Forces that the air defense believed to be in the capability of the Hamas probably isn't there or has been destroyed in those strikes. Watch this report by Gaurav and me.
17 days into the Israel-Hamas war, Israeli Defense Forces have mounted a limited ground invasion into the Gaza Strip. There is a sortie which is attacking dozens of points where terrorists are assembling, and our role is to reduce these threats. Therefore, we are exploiting all the time available to us to improve our readiness and our ability to carry out the ground maneuver. Hamas, which carried out the October 7th terror attack on Israel, has also confirmed ground operation by the IDF. According to Israeli forces, raids by tank and infantry forces were done to kill squads of terrorists who were preparing for the next stage in the war. During the night, there were raids by tank and infantry forces. In these raids, terrorists are being killed who were preparing for the next stage of the war. These raids also locate and search for anything we can get in terms of intelligence on the missing and the hostages. Israeli forces have claimed that their airstrikes focused on sites where Palestinian militants were assembling to attack any wider Israeli invasion. The Israeli army has also organized raids to search for those who have been abducted and are being kept as hostages.
2 hostages were released has actually piled on the tension and suspense over what's going to really happen, because the big question continues to be, if this is phase 1, what is phase 2 and phase 3 going to look like? Are negotiations really happening where the non-military hostages from Gaza will all be released very quickly? We don't know just yet, but in the interim at least, while that attains a semblance of clarity, Israel is not backing off, not even an inch, not even for a minute.
The limited ground operation could be a wider ground invasion of Gaza by Israeli forces. Israel has said its war on Hamas will end only when the outfit's terror network is completely dismantled. With Shivarur in Sidrot, Bureau Report, India Today.
One of the most emotive aspects of covering this war has been interacting with the families of the hostages. Remember, over 200 hostages continue to be there in Gaza. 2 have been released, and that has only increased the anxiety and the pain of the remaining families. And you've met many of them, Gaurav.
Indeed, they're protesting. They want the government to get into action right away. They want the government to ensure that the hostages are repatriated before retribution takes place. At the same time, the families are equally keen that Hamas be punished, but they want, whether it's US President Joe Biden or the British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak or Giorgia Meloni, the Italian Prime Minister who's currently in Israel, they want world leaders to come together, mount pressure on Hamas and ensure that the innocent victims in their custody, more than 200 of them, are released as quickly as possible.
Free them now! 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 Free them now!
Free them now is the cry from the families and friends of nearly 200 civilians currently being held hostage by Hamas in Gaza.
This is downtown Tel Aviv, the capital of Israel, and it is completely drowned out by the sound of angry Israelis who've collected here demanding justice for the hostages who continue to be in the captivity of Hamas more than 2 weeks after the dreaded terror attack by that terrorist group from Gaza on October the 7th.
Most of those missing were kidnapped from the Nova Music Festival.
All of these people are asking for a full prisoner deal. All of the people here are extremely angry, and they're saying that the government here has not been doing enough to bring the hostages back. Many of the people here are friends, relatives, classmates, parents, siblings of those who've been kidnapped. They're all holding posters, and they're all calling for the Israeli government to instantly act.
Idan is missing since Saturday, October 7th, and we haven't heard from him. We just had a phone call to his girlfriend on Saturday morning, and since then we don't know anything. We want answers. I think the entire world needs to give us answers.
All the world need to understand this is more than a war crime. What Hamas did there, it's a crime against humanity, and all the leaders around the world need to intervene to take action.
In Jerusalem, more families of Hamas hostages hit the streets after meeting Israeli president. Among them were the parents of 23-year-old Israeli-American hostage Hersh Goldberg-Polin. Hersh's parents were told by witnesses of the attack that one of Hersh's limbs was blown off by an exploding grenade.
We're asking for everybody around the world, Sarei Chutz, foreign ministers from the 30 countries where there are hostages, to scream, let in the medical care. We've talked to doctors. The doctors have said, if he gets the treatment that he needs, he has a decent chance. If he still hasn't gotten it, it's a dire situation. He needs surgery, he needs intensive antibiotics, and we're screaming to anybody who will listen, let in the medical care and bring all 200 of these people home to their families.
Hollywood star Gal Gadot has also joined to release the hostages. She's using her social media platforms to post videos of children kidnapped by Hamas. The release of 2 American hostages has given a glimmer of hope to hundreds of families, but time is running out. With Shiva Arur in Tel Aviv, Bureau Report, India Today.
Israel on day 16 of this conflict has pounded Al-Ansar Mosque at the West Bank. So this is the widening of this battle. It started with the Gaza Strip. Now it's expanded Shiv to the West Bank, and there's already the third front, which is Israel targeting the Hezbollah at the northern front.
And the airstrike took place not very far from where Gaurav was reporting just a few days ago, the first Indian journalist to report from the West Bank and Palestinian territory. The Jenin refugee camp has been in the news for years and years for what's been taking place there. But an airstrike on a mosque with terror resources hidden below it basically suggests that the beast has awoken, metaphorically speaking, and Israel is going after every little remnant of the Hamas, big or small, within territory or outside, and the Ansar mosque attack is a reminder of that.
Amid the ongoing war between Israel and Hamas, Israel opened a fresh front in its offensive. In a major escalation, Israeli forces carried out their first major airstrike in the West Bank on Sunday. Israel struck a compound beneath Al-Ansar Mosque in the West Bank's Jenin, killing at least one person. The Israeli forces said the mosque conceals terror cells of Hamas and Islamic Jihad, and terror groups have been using the mosque as a command center to plan terror attacks.
Based on specific intelligence inputs, the Israeli forces mounted an airstrike even in the West Bank, targeting the Al-Ansar Mosque, saying Hamas terrorists were not just hiding in the mosque, but were also storing weapons for an imminent attack on Israeli civilians.
And a day later, Hamas hit back at Israeli defense forces deployed in west of Jenin. The Hamas attacks were to avenge deaths of terror operatives in Israeli airstrikes in West Bank's Jenin. As the war reaches the West Bank, so far, dozens of Palestinian radials in West Bank have been killed in clashes with Israeli forces.
Israel's airstrike on the Al-Ansar Mosque in the West Bank shows that the beast has woken and it's going to go after every single asset of the Hamas. A hyper-alert intelligence is going to make sure that Operation Swords of Iron is not going to stop at anything whatsoever. And this also means that two big fronts are now completely open.
The West Bank strikes come after Israel conducted multiple raids in the region, arresting hundreds of Hamas workers and seizing massive cache of arms and ammunition aimed at attacking Israel. With Gaurav Sawant and Shiv Arur from Israel, Bureau Report, India Today.
Israel now is fighting this war against Hamas on three major fronts: Gaza, where Shiv and I are currently, the West Bank, and also Hezbollah, another Iranian proxy on its northern borders. And this war, Shiv, is only set to escalate.
It's only set to escalate. 2 weeks, as far as the Israel government is concerned, is absolutely nothing. They say, wait for the next phase. Gaurav and I will continue to report from the front lines, from the West Bank, and from the north. Thanks for watching this special broadcast right here on India Today from southern Israel.